I want him. Can you imagine the first words a father ever says to his son, or the first words a son ever hears from his father is, I want him? But my daddy, a.k.a. Bubba, that's the first thing he said when he walked into that orphanage in the hot Florida summer of 1983. What's interesting is my father had already raised 6 kids to be grown. I'm country, so y'all stay with me. And what that means is that they was of age and they was out the house. He was a full-time sharecropper since he was 15 years old. Finally in his mid-40s, been with his wife for almost 30 years, all the kids out the house. He's an empty nester, and he's finally free. And he decides to raise me. I come home with all that family, with all them cousins, really as a only child because they all was out the house. And my brothers and sisters would be like, man, Daddy sure treat you different than he treated us. He raised you different than he raised us. I said, well, let's put things in context because context matters. It was in the 60s. He was in his 20s. It was 6 kids. Y'all was getting on his nerves. And it was 6 of y'all all at the same time. And here I come, a golden child. We got one child, he got experience, he got a reference, and I really want to share with you today what I wanted to tell my brothers and sisters my entire life. Are you ready? Yes. I'm his favorite. You know what I mean? I'm his favorite. And so I admire my dad. I'm grateful for my dad. I'm thankful for my dad. Man, he stopped sharecropping all up the East Coast, got a dead-end job to work at a local plant. He stopped smoking cigars. He stopped riding his motorcycles and hanging out in bars. He told me he literally altered his life so he could be more present. But of all the things my dad did, seen and unseen, known and unknown, I'm really grateful for the most important part. He matured. See, my dad was always masculine. He's a man's man. Still at the tender age of 86, he's still my hero. But my dad wasn't always mature. And I know what you're thinking. Is he going to talk the whole time about his daddy? I want to. But this is just give context to this conversation. I want you to think about and explore and challenge masculinity and what it means as it comes to leadership and maturity, but more importantly, humanity. In the widely heralded book, The Archetypes of Mature Masculinity by Robert Moore and Douglas Gillette, it highlights the fact that mature masculinity is not abusive, it's not domineering, but in fact, it's generative, it's creative, it's empowering for itself and others. It's not a bad word. Masculinity in of itself is not a problem. It's not even toxic. It's a necessity. The question is it mature? And that's the foundation I want to lay for you today is maturity is the state of being fully developed, not just physically, but mentally, spiritually, and emotionally. And masculinity is qualities and traits traditionally associated with men and boys. So mature masculinity is quality and traits traditionally associated with men that's fully developed. Robert Moore, in his research, he discovered that all Western males lack something that all other males got all over the world. A critical piece to help them transition to embrace their masculinity. And that is the rites of passage. And not some spooky sect or cult or routine that you're just going through the motions to do, but something meaningful. True connections with other men who are mature to help you on this journey of masculinity. Now, my dad wasn't perfect. He had his share of mistakes. But the reality is, in his mistakes, he did become mature. And he wasn't just mature, he also was masculine. And his mature masculinity allowed him to see and meet a need bigger than himself, to become a father to a boy that didn't have one. And that is the power of mature masculinity, and that is why I'm standing on this stage right here today. Now, in my journey of masculinity, I could tell you that I'm trying to figure it out as a father, as a husband, as a friend, as a brother, as a dad. And here I'm learning that a lot of my subconscious come from my dad. And I realized developing over 1,000 of students and personal development, professional development, over 20 years from all over the world. A lot of how I show up, my principles and practices is from my dad more than any other institution that taught me combined. So I know you have associations and assumptions and perspectives when it comes to masculinity, but here's the question I have for you. In all of your experiences, in all of your encounters with masculinity from men, was it mature? In this book, professor and psychologist Robert Moore and mythologist Douglas Gillette, they highlight in every man there's these 4 archetypes. Archetypes meaning patterns of behavior, a subconscious way to how we process. My first exposure to this was in Bermuda. Yes, I was in Bermuda and I didn't get lost in a triangle. But I did get lost in a philosophy and approach that changed my life forever when it came to development and education. I was in education for over 13 years, got award after an award. People asked me from all over the island to help them with their problem child. That was my expertise. You got a problem child, I helped them get results. That led to me becoming a director of this all-boys school that was committed to holistic development of archetypes and identity and masculinity and all these other phrases. I said, are we talking about education? I'm here to teach math, English, writing, and they taught me the most important part was their identity. And that they said when you create an identity in a masculine young male, they build what they call intrinsic motivation when they realize who they are. And a lot of times they could be self-taught, they could be self-driven, and they can learn and do whatever they need to do once they have that belief in who they are. And so they broke it down in these 4 archetypes that we shared with the students every single year, the parents, the donors. The king, symbolized by the crown, highlights leadership. Every boy needs to lead. Then there was the swords, which highlights the warrior, but not in a sense of fighting to prove against someone, but fighting to get better. Every boy needs to be challenged. The bricks, symbolic of brotherhood. Every boy needs a brother. And the candle, highlighting vision. Every boy needs a plan. Now, we took them on a journey, and as they went on this journey, they get to see not only how this works in class, how this works in school, but how it works in life. I want you to imagine a boy hugging his mother for the very first time as a boy and saying, you know what, Mom, I'm leaving you to go be a man. And they would go on this 3-day journey with us, but they had to consciously let their mother know that they love them, but they're going on this journey on a deserted island. And guess what? There was no Wi-Fi. There's no cell phones. They could do nothing but be engaged that entire weekend process. And they would go through this process of personal development and understanding leadership and conflict resolution and social emotional skills. And all of a sudden, when the family comes back to that island 3 days later, they recognize them not as that little boy that left from the school, but they recognize them as the initiated man that they have come to now be a part of this society. And that is how you change the world. Can you imagine an entire community of initiated men? Can you imagine an entire city? Can you imagine an entire state? Can you imagine an entire country? A nation of initiated men who are taking responsibility for themselves and also for others. I can not only imagine it for me, but I can imagine for everybody that's in here. Men commit suicide 4 times more than women. Right now, today. Men commit homicide 10 times more than women. Over 90% of all persons in prison are men. So men are killing themselves and killing each other 10 times more than anyone else. So, how do we solve this problem? One of my roles and responsibilities as a director of the school, I had to raise hundreds of thousands of dollars every single year. And I would come to corporations and companies and governments and say, first, let me ask you a question. Do you want to support a cause or do you want to solve a problem? What do you mean? Let me give you an example because I'm glad you asked. Supporting a cause is I support women and children for the past 20 years, and we have a 5K run to celebrate that. Congratulations. Thank you. Keep doing it because you have to keep doing it. Because the real reason that you have to support them, not only now, but for the next 20 years and give hundreds of thousands of dollars, because you're giving them a cause to keep going, to stay in the dysfunction that we're living in as a society, because you're neglecting the solution. Men. And not men in general, and not men in sports, but mature, initiated men in the development to make them become that, because that is a skill set. So my question before I even do my presentation, what's your agenda? Do you want to just support a cause, or do you want to solve the problem? Because every single home that I've ever known that's in America, that's in Bermuda, that has a strong, masculine, initiated men, there's no government assistance, there's no outside organization that needs to take care of their women and children. I wish I could tell you that having a strong father figure in my life was all I needed to become a mature, masculine man. But it wasn't. I wish I could tell you that getting a college degree and joining a fraternity was enough, but it wasn't. I wish I could tell you that marrying my college sweetheart and having 2 beautiful, incredible children was enough, but it wasn't. I wish I could tell you being a professional athlete and traveling to 30 countries all over the world was enough, but it wasn't. I wish I could tell you that making 6 figures for over 10 years and being an ordained minister and a published author was enough, but it wasn't. I wasn't enough until I decided I was enough. And I know a lot of people want to understand, how do you struggle with this? Because I'm scared, but most of the time, like a lot of men that I know, that we're not enough. Because you're challenged to do something, to take care of somebody else that you don't know how to do it. But your pride won't say, hey, I'm a father, but I don't know what I'm doing. I'm a husband, but I don't know what I'm doing. I'm a leader. I don't know what I'm doing. I'm a man. I don't know what I'm doing. But you know what I'm going to do? I'm going to study maskology. And I'm going to put on this mask to act like, to walk like, to talk like, whatever I think you need from me. So we did all of this archetype development in our students, but here's the point. If you develop the mind but neglect the heart, you've done absolutely nothing. And Arbiter Institute talked about 2 particular books that I had to do quarterly training for 4 years straight for every staff, for every student, and for every parent. It was The Anatomy of Peace and Leadership and Self-Deception. And what I had to teach them is that as much as we're developing their mind, if we develop their mind and neglect their heart, they will never translate. So what do? We break it down, and a lot of people who see people that have behavior, they'll say, oh, he's a thief, he's a liar. A lot of people attack the behavior, but when I see somebody lying and I see somebody stealing, all I see is that they're in pain, they need help. That's the way that they're asking, because their pride won't just come out and say, I need help. And when you're at war in your heart, you don't see other people's humanity. You see people as threats. And when you see people as threats, you see them as objects. You see them as vehicles. You see them as irrelevant. But the work we do is we help them understand how to get peace in their heart by exemplifying that ourselves, to say, I see you. Despite the labels, despite the consequence, despite the decision, despite the behavior, I see you. Powerful man, world-changing man, life-changing man, I see you. And that peace in my heart allows them to say, I think this is a safe place for me to be seen. And when we see each other and we're at peace in our heart, now the real work can be done. Because I understand that my value is not what I do, but my value is who I am. So I want, just like what my dad said, I want him. I want every man in this room and every man in the world to know we want you and that you're enough. And I would like to share with you something that we would share with our students every single morning as they start the day. I'm a man of honor. I'm a man of integrity. I'm a man of vision. I'm a man of courage. Excellence is my goal. Success is my companion. The world is my oyster, and my contribution to it will certainly be made. I'm here for a purpose. My life has deep significance. I have arrived on schedule for my assignment, and the world is a better place because of my presence in it. And with God as my help, I'm a man of impact. Thank you.